Hi, this is Matthew Mockimer, and I'm joining you for a few minutes today to talk about my setting of Isaiah Mighty Seer in Days of Old. This is a wonderful hymn penned by Martin Luther, who wrote both the text and the melody of the hymn. It was intended to be sung as the Sanctus in the Lutheran Divine Service, and that's how it can still be used today, as well as a hymn in its own right. This is a fascinating hymn, text, and tune. The text really is one enormous crescendo and serves as kind of a theological paraphrase and commentary on Isaiah's vision of God in Isaiah chapter 6. The melody is equally interesting, but can be challenging, and the main reason for that is because it's very, very long. This is a one-stanza hymn, so there's not any opportunity to go back and sing another verse and try it again. It's one stanza, it's through composed. And so as I was considering how to set this for choir, organ, and instruments in kind of a festive setting, that became one of my first conundrums. How should I use the choir well and appropriately in this without taking away the opportunity that the congregation has to sing this just one stanza hymn? The way I solved that was to write both a choral introduction and a choral coda based on an ancient Gregorian chant melody. This was actually the chant melody that Martin Luther used to write his hymn tune, Isaiah Mighty Seer in Days of Old. So this was the foundational material that had been sung in church for hundreds of years that then served as kind of the germination of Luther's tune. So the choir enters on this chant melody, singing in Latin, Sanctus, 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 Domine Deus Sabaoth. Not Domine. Domine Deus Sabaoth. Holy, holy, holy is God the Lord of Sabaoth. And again, using this Gregorian chant melody as its basis. So it begins in a very kind of soft, ethereal, mysterious place, and then quickly grows. The second element of this setting I'd like to draw your attention to is how the instruments portray the drama in the text itself. Initially, when the congregation enters after a brief brass introduction, it's only the organ that is accompanying them. You'll notice, though, that not long thereafter, at the text above the throne were flaming seraphim, the first trumpet enters on the melody. In addition to that, the right hand of the organ part goes way up, very high in the register, and has this kind of falling, simple counter melody to the main melody played by the trumpet, which is supposed to signify the seraphim circling above the throne of God. Shortly thereafter, with the text, with two they veiled their faces, as was right, you'll notice the trombone enters. So now we have both a trombone and a trumpet playing the melody. This is the section of the text where it starts talking about the many wings of the seraphim, two veiling their faces, two flying, things like that. So now we have this emphasis on two. So just as a little kind of fun musical detail, now there are two instruments that are playing. You'll notice that they play in unison all the way until this section of the text. One to the other called and praised the Lord. There, the first trumpet and the first trombone play in harmony, almost in kind of a canonic type of harmony, as if these two angels are calling back and forth to one another. The organ part also starts to thicken at this point, and when you get to the text, holy is God, the Lord of Sabaoth, things really start to get loud and exciting. Shortly thereafter, the other parts of the brass join. So the second holy is God, the Lord of Sabaoth. You get the second trumpet and the second trombone who join in on the action. The trumpets are trading these rising, ascending lines to kind of illustrate the action of the angels around God's heavenly throne room. Eventually, the first trombone will do the same. The second trombone stays on the melody throughout to help undergird that for the congregation. And if you really, really want to get dramatic, there's also an option there to randomly ring handbells. Since the choir is not solely responsible for any music in the middle of the piece. This could be something that you could give them, just have each member of your choir with one of those assigned handbells, and they could start randomly ringing at that section. In my mind, this was the text that was really the culmination and the driving point of Luther's entire text. This text right here, "Holy is God, the Lord of Sabaoth." So I really wanted to highlight that, both by how I use the instruments and how I use the organ in that section. You'll notice there that as the vision begins to fade throughout the rest of the piece, the organ will gradually fade away, as will the brass. And then at the end of the hymn, we'll hear again the choir singing that ancient Gregorian melody in Latin again to provide a nice cadence at the end of the piece. I hope you enjoy the setting. I pray it can be useful to you and your congregation, and happy music making. Thank you.